Hello, everybody, and welcome to the very first episode of the Let's Chat Movies podcast. It's been a long time coming, and we're finally here. And joining me here today is special guest, host of the Film Fan Club, Sam Carrico. Thanks for joining me.
Hey there, Lucas. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too. How are you doing?
I'm doing quite well. We've had a lot of time to resonate on the Snyder Cut, so I'm excited to talk about it and where we could go in the future.
Yeah, right. That's a good thing I think about getting this podcast out now is the Snyder Cut has not only had about a week or so of release, but there's plenty of stuff now, especially to talk about. For anyone who isn't familiar with Let's Chat Movies, I am a review site who's been running off of WordPress for about 7 years, and this spoilers. If you have not yet seen Justice League, you should stream it right now before watching this video because we are going to spoil the hell out of it and also break down some juicy tea that's been emerging for the past few days as well. So, first of all, we're going to start with the recent interview from Ann Sarnoff. Now, a lot of you may have heard of this. I'm sure, Sam, you've probably heard this interview.
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot about it lately on Twitter.
Oh yes, I did an article about it as well, and it trended not just that night within an hour, but overnight as well. So yeah, there's definitely a lot to break down with that. And the overall gist of what she said was that they won't be continuing with the Snyderverse over at Warner Media Pictures.
Everywhere I'm looking now, I'm surrounded by your embrace. Baby, I can embrace. You're everything I need and more. It's written all over your face.
Because there's other recent reports circulating now that HBO Max may overrule her. Yep, she's getting overruled, and they're going to continue it anyway, but as shows.
Private appearances. Shawty on the block with me, we're sharing it.
Sam, do you think this is a good move?
Well, I think continuing. I mean, there's so much in the Snyder Cut and so much left to Zack Snyder's original vision that the prospect of having it continued in any capacity is exciting. And I think we've seen with the structure of Zack Snyder's Justice League, the way it had the part 1, 2, 3, and so on, that something like that and this type of material is ripe for being something like a miniseries. I think the big question would be, would we be able to get Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill? Like, who would we be able to get back to somebody who is used to being on a movie, used to doing films? Would they be willing to come and do a television series for HBO Max?
You ain't gonna Disney Plus me.
Look,
But with the way that the Marvel Cinematic Universe has translated to television, Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany didn't have any problem going to a television series, and everybody found that to be very fruitful, I think. So,
Although
it just depends on, do they want to come back?
WandaVision did get backlash though from a lot of people. They found it disappointing because Mephisto didn't show up, and it was a lot of their own fan theories. But could that potentially be the fate of if this universe, which was once films, goes to streaming, goes to a show? Do you think they have the potential to flesh out the story for that long?
Well, I think they definitely have the potential, but that is a little bit of the problem whenever, like with WandaVision, they introduced all these possibilities. And not only Mephisto, but because that was kind of a fan creation, at least myself being a casual viewer, I didn't really expect Mephisto outside of going on Twitter. But even with WandaVision, they set up Quicksilver and then they go back on it and subvert your expectations, Ryan Johnson style. So I'm my fear is, with this Zack Snyder Justice League universe, they could, they set up Nightmare, they set up all this potential, evil Superman, Darkseid, Lex Luthor setting up the Injustice League, all this stuff. It's now set up, and if they continue this universe and don't properly follow through on it, then a lot of us are going to be left disappointed. But I guess that's, at this point, I know Zack Snyder's thinking with this movie was, let me just kind of at least plant the seeds so they get what they understand what I wanted to do. But yeah, there's a lot of potential, and I think if I was an executive at HBO Max, I would just be sitting there and picking and choosing. Like, okay, it's like, what do I want to continue? There's so much here.
Right, like, can you imagine how frustrated Warner Media's investors must have been when they heard Ann Sarnoff say that? They're like, excuse me, because this is a cash cow. No, this is a cash bull just waiting. And the fact that Warner Media are just sleeping on it because, let's be honest, they can't let the past slide. They're very much loyal to a degree that's faulting them right now.
Right.
And it's just really a shame because they could have so much success off of this and so much cash. And with it going to HBO Max, as great as it is that the story could be finished, I do feel we're losing a bit of potential for those really epic films and those moments in movie theaters when you're with the crowd and everyone's cheering. You're not going to get that on
Absolutely.
HBO
I mean,
Max.
it was made for IMAX, right? And just
Mm.
with the Snyder Cut being released with but the black bars didn't bother me too much,
Me neither.
except for the fact that it just constantly reminded me of the potential that I would have had to see this on the big screen
Right.
and have it be in its full quality. So yeah, you do lose something a little bit when you move to HBO Max visually, but maybe what they lose there they could make up for in storytelling and having more time to flesh out these characters, like we saw in the Snyder Cut.
Yeah, definitely. The character development, that's, I guess, where we should start off with Justice League because, oh boy, compared to 2017's Frankenstein, ugh, Electric 2 Bungalow Justice League nightmare.
Clap if you care. All right, let's move on. Perfect.
This is so much better in terms of not just what we get from the characters themselves, but even just the way they're portrayed. Like, who was your favorite character in this film?
Oh, well, I mean, I think favorite character, and I don't know, that's hard to pick, but
You're
the
on the
one that
spot.
definitely benefited the most was Cyborg. I put up a video on my channel where I just talked about how the thing that I left the 2017 movie leaving, I was just, what wasted potential of the character of Cyborg, because he could be a parallel for what the Justice League, you know, them coming together and trying to work as a team and everything, and he's really, you know, he's new to all this superhero stuff, and he's new to being, you know, Cyborg. So I thought, what wasted potential? So whenever the Snyder Cut put all that stuff back in, highlighted his relationship with his father, I think he definitely benefited the most from it. I still liked Barry Allen a lot. A lot of people thought he was just a little bit annoying in the 2017 release,
Just a
and I
tad.
think here,
able to, like, brunch. Like, what is brunch? You wait in line for an hour for essentially lunch. I mean, I don't know. People are a little slow.
I'll try to keep up.
there's no question that he's not really, at least to me, there's no question in my mind that he's not annoying. He's funny and likable, and that's hard. I mean, Ezra Miller, with Ezra Miller's outside drama that's been going on in his real life, it's hard to make his character seem likable, at least to me, and they pulled that off. So lots to like here. I even liked Jared Leto's Joker way more than I did in Suicide Squad. I think the
did?
characterization, the look, and everything was better here. Lex Luthor I liked here more than in Batman versus Superman. So lots of characters benefit here, but yeah, I think Cyborg definitely benefits the most. What about you?
Yeah, my favorite character, I think I said in my review, was Cyborg, yeah. And he was, I think, maybe my second to least favorite character in the 2017 cut. Through no fault of Ray Fisher's, obviously. It was just, in
Right.
the 2017 cut, he was practically not there. And I do think it's very telling, by the way, as we will talk about later, that Joss Whedon and Jeff Johns chose to cut out nearly every single person of color or any ethnicity.
Look, she's crying. Do you hear her crying? Like we care. I don't give a
It was so great to just see him shine in this film and to see that performance that Zach has had to answer the question of, so is Cyborg the heart of your movie, so many times, and to actually see that answer come to fruition. And it was just, I'm very happy for Ray Fisher. And
Oh, absolutely. With everything that was going on, speaking of people's personal lives, with Ray Fisher, and let's be clear, I stand with Ray Fisher, and I hope that he
Absolutely.
gets an expanded role in the future of these movies. But to see, without knowing everything going on, just to see him validated a little bit more by having him fleshed out, and then showing us that really good performance that he gave us all the way back in 2016-17 when they were shooting this damn thing. I couldn't imagine the level of validation that he must have felt, being like, yes, I told you guys, this is what I've been telling you, they cut me out. So yeah, it was really good to see him do well here.
Right, and then you've got, as well, speaking of Ray being vindicated, I guess we'll talk about it now, get it out of the way, because it is a very big shadow over this movie, is Joss Whedon.
Did I lie? Did I lie? Did I fucking lie?
And Jeff Johns, and to some degree Walter Hamada. I don't think he's quite as guilty of anything as bad as the other two did. I think he just made a very misguided phone call, and that's whatever. But in terms of Joss Whedon, Ray came out. He was really the only one at first who came out and said, "Look, stuff went down on this film. The bloggers aren't lying." Grace Randolph of Beyond the Trailer, she reported very early on after the release of Justice League about the abusive treatment that was going on the Justice League set that she had visited while Snyder was on the project. So she would have known there's a difference.
She's got a point. She's an icon. She's a legend, and she is the moment.
And she even
Now,
said
come on now.
the video's been making waves lately on Twitter. That I believe Gal Gadot. Do you remember that infamous now scene of Flash falling into her cleavage?
Of course, yeah, and I was not surprised one bit that was not in this version.
No. Well, of course that was Joss's, but not only that. So Gal refused to film the scene, and this pissed Joss Whedon off.
I remember
Because it
that
was
vaguely
so
now that you
gruesome.
mention that. Didn't they have to
Yeah.
use like a body double or something?
He locked her in a room for a start, allegedly. This is allegedly.
Well, here's what allegedly happened.
Allegedly, he locked her in a room and filmed it with a stunt double, and that's why she pretty much has never spoken on it, on anything to do with it until very recently, and that's also probably why when Ray Fisher came out, she supported him. And
I
then-
noticed. So Gal Gadot is a very careful actress.
Yes.
Her career is very much on the rise. Jason Momoa, I get the sense from him
love
that
him.
he doesn't mind standing up for political causes and
Yeah.
whatnot whenever he feels it's right. So that's kind of in his nature. But Gal Gadot is very careful. And so whenever she joined Ray Fisher and then also joined Jason Momoa and standing with Ray Fisher and saying, yeah, I don't have positive things to say about Joss Whedon and I had my own experiences.
Yeah.
I think that's very telling.
Absolutely. And then the final nail in the coffin was, of course, oh, that's bad. I forget her name from Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh, Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Yes, she came out. She said that.
Jennifer Lewis. Yeah. Not Jennifer Lawrence.
No, not Jennifer Lawrence.
Oh, I done got my Jennifer's mixed up.
Oh.
Simone, I hope you know Jennifer Lewis is coming for that ass.
She suffered sexual abuse from, I think it was, not abuse, sorry, mistreatment. So, like, objectification.
Was it Sarah Michelle Gellar herself or just a different character from Buffy? I can't remember. There was a
I'm
lot
not
of
sure.
people that came out, though.
Yeah, I think it was at least one person from nearly every project he's done except Cabin in the Woods. I don't recall anyone coming out from that film.
Right.
As far as I know from now. But, yeah, and that, of course, led to the actual investigation that Warner Media they had no choice. It made them put Joss Whedon under investigation. And the treatment of Justice League. Remedial action.
Oh, yes.
At Warner Brothers. And
which, whatever that means. They haven't released the investigation results, right? That's the next thing that Ray Fisher has been said. Well, first of all, Ray Fisher is no longer under the NDA that was active, I guess, previously.
I don't think any of them. Or maybe Ben
Sorry?
Affleck. I don't think any of them are, except maybe Gal, Jason, and Ben and Ezra, as they're still in the franchise. But
yeah, I would imagine whoever is still in an upcoming movie at this point has one.
Yeah.
But Ray and some of the others are probably free to say whatever, and I'm sure that Ray Fisher will be saying whenever he feels it's correct.
Here on The Wendy Show, we keep a catalog of everything. Just when you think we're not watching or not paying attention, we are always on it. Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
But, I wonder if, Henry Cavill's still under an NDA. Because he's not Superman anymore.
Well, I heard a rumor on, again, granted it was on the John Campea show, but I heard a rumor that he had signed or struck a deal with Warner Brothers to be in a couple of movies in smaller roles, kind of like those Marvel cameos that were happening, in the middle of the Avengers movies during like Phase 2. So kind of just like not having a Man of Steel 2, but maybe sprinkling him in. But then again, there's also reports that they're going to do a Superman reboot with J.J. Abrams producing.
What the f***? Are you kidding me with this?
That would potentially not even have him. So
yeah,
who knows what their plans are? It's hard for me to tell at this point.
Yeah, I do also want to speak actually quickly about that reboot news. You reminded me, there was a rumor that I do want to debunk. I don't believe this rumor was true. That news was put out to bury the Snyder Cut. That's not true. It's very obvious that's not true, because almost any time a new CWDC show premieres, they announce something for the movies to kind of get people to tune into that. And I believe that's what it was, because that article came out like the same day or the day after Superman and Lois premiered. It was nowhere near the release of the Snyder Cut. So I don't know why people were saying that. But in terms of Warner Media burying things, they had not only tried to bury this investigation, it's pretty obvious now they're still, up to this point, trying to bury the truth of what happened with this film. I think that's why they don't want to continue it in the motion pictures, because just this very film existing looks bad for them. Every kind of comparison that has been made has not only said this is much better than what Warner...
Rest in peace to the chicks that's dying to be me.
Out in 2017, but they're like, Warner Media fucked up. Warner Media messed this up. They cut what? So it makes them look terrible. I mean, what do you think? Do you think they're trying to cover it up, or do you think fans are reading too much into it?
I don't think necessarily that fans are reading too much into it, because, I mean, when you're left with nothing but mixed signals from anything, whether it be from someone you're dating or a giant multi-billion-dollar company, you're going to do nothing but kind of speculate. So I think it's fair to speculate, especially whenever they've saying, yeah, here's the Snyder Cut. We shot all these new scenes, including wasn't the Easter egg with Ben Affleck and Martian Manhunter, wasn't that a reshoot at the very end? My understanding was that was a reshoot. In the Red Letter Media video, they said it was a reshoot because Ben Affleck looks kind of different in the final scene with Martian Manhunter. So why would Warner Brothers shoot Easter eggs for future movies in new footage for their old 2017 movie if that they're not going to continue anymore? But I mean, it is mixed signaling, because they're like, okay, yeah, here's all this new stuff. Here's what could happen. We're definitely not going to do it, though. I mean, how many people have you talked to lately that want to see? They're like, oh yeah, I don't care about the Snyder Cut, or the Snyderverse continuing, but I really want to see Shazam 2. know, like it's a weird basket
Hey.
for Warner Brothers to put their eggs in, especially whenever they're seeing such success here. So yeah, I don't know what to believe at this point.
Shazam was good, okay? Shazam was a fun film. It was
The
bad release date.
the future that
It was
that
a
film
terrible
provides.
release date.
Yeah, well, okay. I'm just more excited about DC's future continuing here than I am with Shazam. I don't know. The
100%.
Dwayne Johnson has been Black Adam since like 2014, and they haven't even
God.
started shooting the movie yet. Come on.
There was, I think, one announcement today about something to do with potentially it starting or wrapping, something to do with its filming. But
I believe it starts in like a couple
Yeah.
of, or maybe 3 weeks. I think it starts shooting. But I'm like, you're just now starting? Oh my gosh.
I know, like, how long has this been? Swear I recall hearing rumors of this movie back when Batman v Superman debuted. That early.
No, I swear, yeah, it was 2014 back it was so long ago that the New Mutants movie had only been delayed like twice back then.
I never actually watched that film.
I haven't
I
either.
never
I can't
did.
bring myself to. I
No.
saw it at like the $5 bin at Walmart, and I was like, "You poor thing. You had such potential."
That seems way more expensive than it probably should have been. And I love Dark Phoenix.
Getting ripped off. No, but the future of the Snyderverse, I think, is more fruitful than a lot of what DC has had to offer lately. Like even Aquaman 2. I liked Shazam 2, and I liked Aquaman. But this movie, this new movie, just has again. They keep describing it as a cul-de-sac, and I'm like, that's just so sad as a
Cul-de-sac
storyline
my
cul-de-sac
arse.
because
This
there's
is-
so much here. These houses in this cul-de-sac are so nice.
That cul-de-sac is expanding on HBO Max though, just not on theatre screens, unfortunately, because Warner Media can't swallow their ego and admit they messed up, and they should never have ever, 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 ever brought Joss Whedon in to come and do anything with that film. And I can't imagine anyone would have been okay with that either. Like, who sat in that boardroom and said, yes, this is excellent, this is amazing? Even one of the Warner Media executives, which I've talked about on Let's Chat Movies before, came out and admitted they knew, quote, Justice League was a pile of shit. Nobody liked it, we hated it, and we thought it was, quote, stupid.
Ew! What an interesting artifact.
It's the ultimate poll tested movie though. That's the thing, that you may not like Zack Snyder's vision for DC, but he has a vision, and he wants, you know, he has a style that he wants to achieve, and he's going for something. He's trying to make his movie. Joss Whedon comes in and he's like, okay, well, the chart says that if we do this thing at this particular scene, if we put a joke here, then people will clap. And then so that means, well, the research says that we need to, they didn't like dark, so let's make everything really bright. And Zack Snyder's like, no, I think this would look good. This is what my style is. This is what my vision for these characters is. So you may not like somebody may not like what Zack Snyder's doing. But when Joss Whedon comes in, he doesn't even have a vision.
How y'all doing?
So again, yeah, I could see maybe if you're a corporate executive and not a filmmaker. I'm not a filmmaker either, but if you're looking at it like completely like from a chart perspective and poll testing everything, yeah, bring in the guy who did the Avengers. But if you knew anything about what Zack Snyder was doing if you were watching the dailies, if you knew what his vision for the DC universe was, you must have known in the back of your head, yet like they probably did.
Yeah.
This is a bad idea.
Terrible decision. And also, it's like there were already I don't think his ex-wife had come out and accused him of the abuse just yet, but there were already a lot of claims going around about Joss Whedon at that time. And he had, I'm sure a lot of fans will remember, the leaked Wonder Woman script, which was just awful. It was very objectifying. I think it was just really awful. And we also have to talk about, I think it's almost unavoidable with the Snyder Cut, the media reaction as well. to Zack Snyder, because I don't believe that they were being paid to slam Zack Snyder and DC like some people were saying, like they were on Disney's payroll. I don't believe that, but I do believe there was a very deliberate push by Warner Media to get rid of Zack Snyder, to bring in new people, and to redo everything because they were scared of what he was doing, because Marvel had not tried anything like it at the time. And the media very much helped with that because it was getting them a lot of clicks. And
oh my God, imagine someone sitting home mumbling and cackling instead of paying their motherfucking bills. Okay? Y'all mumbling and cackling? Y'all sending group text messages about the motherfucking queen while the queen is in the motherfucking stew? While the queen is building her fucking empire bigger and better than before? I need you peasants! I need you fucking peasants!
He's on a roll.
You fucking peasants! Pick my fucking fruit out, ho!
Which one?
The fuck you laughing at? Broke people should never laugh!
There are a lot of sites out
Now
there
hold on!
that very much value clickbait over actual sources.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, Zack Snyder is a divisive character, regardless of what you think about him. I like his movies. His politics are a different story. So there's some people that maybe don't like him for personal reasons. A lot of people don't like his movies.
Yeah.
But I liked Watchmen. I liked Man of Steel. I liked the Ultimate Edition of Batman versus Superman. So I like his movies. Again, his politics are a different story. But that being said, he's a divisive character. So whenever there is a divisive character, in real life or in fiction or whatever, you want to play up that drama. And I'm sure a lot of people or a lot of media outlets that value very much getting to go to Warner Media's press screenings. So if Warner Media is on the bad side, or if Zack Snyder's not on the good side of Warner Media at the time, and you're a critic and you want to be on the good side of Warner Media, I could see how it could be very beneficial to play up the divisive aspect of this character. But that's not to say that Zack Snyder's not divisive, but I could see the appeal. It's not good though. I mean, because again, he's a guy with a vision, just he has a clear love for these characters, and we've seen now what happens when you deprive him from doing in my opinion, every director's cut that he's made has been better than the theatrical cut.
I love it. I mean, I'm so passionate about it, and it's what I do.
Your passion
all the time.
Absolutely. And it's like the memes were hilarious going around on Twitter after the recent Ansarnoff interview, and they're like, how many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man? How many times are you going to keep doing this?
Well, my favorite was the be very careful with the next thing you say, and then that's not very careful.
I liked also, I think I tweeted a couple of them. It was them saying that caption of Darkseid, and it's like, fine, we will use the old ways.
Yes, I saw that on your Instagram account. That was funny.
If you had a business that you were passionate about, then you would know what it takes to run a business, but you don't. So don't even act like you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, the Snyder community is he's very lucky to have a very savvy collection of fans, because they really do know how to drive social media traction. Because they pretty much promoted this movie by themselves. Warner Media did not promote this movie. That fell onto AT&T, HBO Max, the crew of the film, and the fans. And I believe, I will get it up just now, it was streamed to 1.8 million households in its first 5 minutes of debuting. I think that's in the
First
US.
5 minutes.
This that bag walk through, bad bitches walk through. Spin your last on me, like who you came to talk to. This that bag walk through, bad bitches walk through. When that bag come through, bad bitches.
That's how many people tuned in. That is the article from Commission or something. I'll link it down below.
Well, it's one of those things that it's an event film, and so many of us haven't had something like this to I mean, I'm trying to think of when Wonder Woman 1984 was disappointing to me,
I guess it would be
so for this to be so good and hyped up as being so good, and for it to deliver, I mean, I woke up in the middle of the night at like 2 a.m. here in America and was like, well, I guess I'm already up. Let's turn on the Snyder Cut, and it's so long that after 2.5 hours, I turned it off and went back to bed, and I still had some to say for the next day, so it's perfect.
Did you have any trouble getting through it as 4 hours? Did you find it overly long, or did you think it worked?
So again, I know that on my channel, you and David both agreed there was some stuff that could have been trimmed, and I a couple of things, but because I watched it the way I did, and I think a lot of people might have this shared experience, because I think it was like part 3 or part 4, when that title card came up, I'm like, all right, this is a good, it felt like I'm putting a bookmark in my book, and I'll come back to it later.
4.
Sorry?
I think it was part 4. That's the theatrical intermission, right? That's where he said the theatrical intermission would be.
That was probably it, because I tried to do it as close to the halfway point as possible, and I think it was just past 2 hours whenever I put it. Whenever I turned it off and went back to bed, but yeah, it's good because it's so interesting. I'm a big DC fan, so I didn't, and in the pacing, I think so I didn't mind getting double the movie as a DC Comics fan. But what's interesting is when you give Zack Snyder more movie, the pacing is actually a lot better. Like I think this film feels shorter than the theatrical cut of something like Batman vs. Superman. The theatrical cut of Batman vs. Superman felt long because he had to truncate his vision down, and it felt clunky and everything, and things didn't flow right. But this movie, I think another video pointed out that the Flash doesn't show up until like an hour into the movie.
Right.
But when I'm watching it, that feels just perfect for that time. So I think, the pacing is a lot better here. So because the pacing is better here, I didn't mind the extra runtime, but I have to add, I like this sort of thing, and I took a nap halfway through.
Yeah, I remember watching it with my partner, right? And we got to the Steppenwolf invading Themyscira bit. And I thought, especially because in Justice League, that happens like 5-10 minutes into the film.
Right.
I was like, oh, so this might be a bit of a long watch, because I was like, God, I wonder how long's gone by already. Not thinking long has gone by. And it's like 50 minutes into the movie. I'm like, excuse me? And then I think we did also mention on your show, by the time we got to the nightmare scene, it was like, how are we wrapping up already? There's so much more we need to finish.
Police! 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 Help! Police! Help! Police! Help! Help! Police!
I did say in your video, though, that I do think that was misplaced as a scene, like in the wrong place in the movie. But overall...
And I think that was a really good suggestion, though, because like I piggybacked off of your comments then, it would have just raised the stakes in a way, like you said, maybe put it right before the final confrontation with Steppenwolf. Yeah. And then Bruce would have realized, like, oh crap, it's all gonna happen if I fail, and then that would have been so much more impactful for going into that final battle.
And then when they lose the first time, that probably would have, because that fake out was good, but we kind of all knew, oh, it's not actually the end. But if they had put that before it, and because Snyder had talked so much about how Justice League 2 would be fully in a nightmare world, I think a lot of people would have been like, it's actually happening, and then the fake out would have been like, okay, it didn't actually happen, we can breathe, it's fine.
So can I ask, what do you think the outline for, because he wanted to do 3 Justice League movies, and so I'll just say real quick, I thought Darkseid would have been the bad guy for the second movie, and then Superman would have been the villain for the third movie, is what I was thinking. Is that what you were thinking? How do you think that second and third film would have played out?
Well, he has the storyboards actually out somewhere. I think they got taken down originally, but they're back up.
You know all the behind the scenes stuff. I'm like, what do you think's going to happen? You're like, I already know what's going to happen.
Yeah. So, I believe this is the original plan, right? So it will probably have changed and will change going forward. But in the original Justice League, it was going to be part 1 and part 2. Part 1 would have essentially been, I think it would have gone up to about where this one ends. And then part 2 would have been the nightmare kind of world. Reality, it'd all kind of be this kind of dream, as if Darkseid had won, because he was originally going to kill Lois.
So that was my thinking, like maybe at the end of Justice League 2, Darkseid wins and kills Lois, and then Superman turns evil and kills Darkseid plus everybody, and then I don't know. But then in the Justice League Snyder cut, there is that scene of Darkseid putting his hand on Clark, who's like kneeling. So that maybe that would have been the end of the second movie or something. I don't know.
That is that's Lois in Superman's arms, because also what was originally going to happen, and I am glad they cut this out because I don't like this idea, but they were originally going to have Lois have an affair with Bruce.
I remember this. Yeah, this would have been weird.
Superman is dead, and then she would be pregnant with Bruce's baby, and Superman would be angry, but it would all go to shit, and Lois dies pregnant, and that's what turns Superman over to evil.
No, yeah. See, I want it to be because I want it to be like he fails and has like a mental breakdown as a result of that. I don't want to see some weird Batman Superman like soap opera drama type thing. Plus, we just saw Batman versus Superman, so I want to see evil Superman. I don't want to see a Batman versus Superman type conflict again. I want it to be grander than that and that would have kind of minimized it, I think.
Definitely. And then as for Darkseid, it's been annoying, a little bit frustrating to me to read some people's reviews of it, because they're saying, yeah, but Darkseid's not really in it that much, so he's crap, or whatever. And it's like, yeah, he's not in it that much, because this was never a Darkseid film. This was
right. Imagine if they didn't make Return of the Jedi. You know, they just never made it. They got canceled or something, and then we're like, man, I would have loved to have seen more of the Emperor after Empire Strikes Back. They're like, what? He's not even in the movie a lot. Come on, man. And that's like, well, yeah, but he could have had so much potential, and Darkseid has so much potential. And knowing a little bit about the comic book history of that character, you know that even more potential that the character has, and you're like, oh, this could have been so good.
Speaking of Darkseid, I loved the explanation of as to why he didn't come to Earth sooner, was that it was almost like he lost his car keys because he was conquering so many worlds, and he just he couldn't remember what one it was. He's like, Steppenwolf's like, you want me to go get the anti-life equation? He's like, well, yeah. Where is it? I don't know, you go find it. You owe me 50,000. I'm sure you'll find it on one of them.
Right.
He's like, damn it, I
love the way they filled out Steppenwolf's character. I not only was Steppenwolf so much more menacing in this movie. I get that he's like how does the Joker describe himself in The Dark Knight? I'm just a dog chasing cars, you know? And that's kind of what Steppenwolf was, like a mad dog off the leash, you know? But also I loved that complex of like, oh, he wants to please the person he failed.
Yeah.
And he really not only does he want to please him, but he really he'll destroy this whole world just to prove that he's worthy of it. And so I found that to be him to be so much more menacing in this movie. And then there is so much potential for Darkseid.
Absolutely, yeah. Obviously, it's a shame. I don't think they should have killed Steppenwolf, because I would have liked to see him come back in a potential sequel. I thought he did a good job. But
I'll take it just because of the way they killed him in this movie was so much more badass than the way they did it.
One of my favorites, where it just crushes Steppenwolf's head. He's just like,
oh, so good. It was so late. When it happened in the 2017 version, like all of his parademons attack him because he's scared now. I was like, whatever. But looking back, I'm like, it's so lame compared to what they could have done and what they should have done.
They just I don't even think we see Steppenwolf die. I think he just flies off or something.
Well, they left it open, so that way they're like, what if he comes back? And I'm like, don't you fucking dare.
Oof. But at least we have a restored version of Steppenwolf now, and Darkseid is here officially in, I want to say live action, but it's CGI. So we'll say
the whole environment that Darkseid was in. Once that in his on the other side of the boom tube, it was very. I mean, you can only do so. The uncanny valley is real. You can only do so much.
I do,
but it was very much. It felt like George Lucas's prequels a little bit.
Yeah, I do think the Snyder Cut. It does have a lot of unfinished not unfinished, but unpolished visual effects. I thought it suffers the most in the Atlantis scenes underwater.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think, given their budgetary restraints, the fact that it was also, again, filmed in a lot of this footage in 2017, and CGI, even just from then, has come a very long way compared to today's standards. So I can kind of forgive it, and I feel like it's part of the charm, I guess, of the film.
Well, what's beautiful about something like this is, yeah, we're just grateful to be seeing this movie. So they could have released an assembly cut of it, and I would have been like, cool.
Which
this
they
is better than
originally wanted
2017.
to do.
But for them to fix it a little bit is nice. Yeah.
Yeah, they originally wanted to. They called Toby Emmerich, called Zack Snyder, and said, "Hey, do you want to release the Snyder Cut off of your laptop now, just unfinished?" So it would have had the green screen. It would have had the action. It would have had the wires, the wire work, and everything. I kind of want to see that cut. Release the unfinished Snyder Cut.
Release
That's
the
what I want to
unfinished.
see.
Undo the visual effects and then release me that. I want to see that. Release the assembly Snyder Cut.
That's the one. Justice Assemble. I don't know. Some play on the Avengers, I guess. So next thing to talk about regarding Justice League is the Ayer Cut, which was supposed to lead into it. Apparently, Warner Media don't want to do it. Do you think they should? This is very big news, like very recent, by the way. So.
Right. Well, this is where you and I differ a little bit. I didn't see a lot of wasted potential in. I guess there's some wasted potential in Suicide Squad, but before we started rolling, I was telling you, if you want to really make that movie something that, I don't know, something that I would really be excited to see, you would probably have to go back to scripting it. And I think that's what I think from the moment they started. I think when David Ayer was in the scripting process with, I forget the screenwriter's name, I apologize, but with whoever wrote the script for that movie, when they were in the process of developing it, Warner Brothers started meddling with it from that point on. So I don't think that David Ayer got to the point with his Suicide Squad movie that even Zack Snyder got with his Justice League movie, to where they could go back to something closer to what he wanted to do. And there's no way that they're going to completely redo a script and then reshoot an entire movie. So, and then I think David Ayer, I've only been kind of just casually seeing this on Twitter, but I think he is more so just kind of like, sure, maybe, whatever, whereas Zack Snyder's like, oh, hell yeah, let's do it right now. Let's release the Snyder Cut. David Ayer's like, yeah, if you want to, sure,
Yeah.
And so I'm a little bit more lukewarm on it. I'm very excited for James Gunn's Suicide Squad movie. I have hope for the future of that franchise, and I have hope for the future of Harley Quinn, even though I didn't like Birds of Prey that much either. But if they want to do it, I'll watch it. I think there's potential for that movie. I think there's a lot of potential just for the mad love storyline of Harley Quinn and the Joker.
Yeah.
But I gotta say, Lucas, whenever I saw, or what I've seen from the extended cut of Suicide Squad movie, I wasn't impressed, because when I saw the Ultimate Edition of Batman vs Superman, I loved how they added more context for Superman's storyline. Much better. It didn't do the same for Suicide Squad movie. So, is third time the charm? For that film? I don't know.
I definitely want to see this cut of the film because it's essentially free money for whoever decides to take it up, HBO Max or Warner Media, if they ever do. Because David has said that his cut's pretty much finished. It needs about 5 million to kind of polish off the VFX, but overall it's done. As for the Suicide Squad, I have nothing to say about James Gunn. Or on him, so I'll move past that one. And in regards...
wait, can you elaborate on that?
Oh, excuse me?
Okay.
Do you not like James Gunn, or do you not like his previous movies, or do you not like the fact that they're not continuing with David Ayer, or what's the reason there? Or do you just not know anything about the movie, so you don't want to seem ignorant, or what's the deal?
I do not like to speak on James Gunn because of the various things that were unearthed from his old Twitter account, or very old tweets. He
made some risque jokes, right?
He made a lot of pedophilia jokes, very inappropriate ones. He apparently made a couple of kids uncomfortable at some parties. He went to some To Catch a Predator themed party. I just have a lot of problems with him personally.
Yup.
That is problematic stuff right there.
Yeah, you know, he has apologized since, and apparently he's a different person. It is what it is, but you know, I think I'd be a bit of a hypocrite if I didn't forgive Joss Whedon, but I forgave James Gunn.
I understand the. I mean, well,
It's like I also don't support either Johnny Depp or Amber Heard. I think they both are as guilty as the other, and instead of tearing down each other's careers, they should be focusing on their careers, which are both in the tank.
The tea is exceptionally good today. Who made this? Very delicious.
I go back and forth on the Amber Heard. I was very disappointed in Johnny Depp. We can go back to the thing in a second, but I was very disappointed in Johnny Depp at first. But then whenever I learned more, I was like, well, now I don't like Amber Heard. And then I hear more, and I'm like, well, maybe now I don't know what to believe. So yeah, like you, I just try not to comment on that. So, but anyways, you can go ahead.
DC attracts a lot of interesting talent, don't they? Poor Warner Media. We say poor Warner Media. This is all a mess of their own doing. It's nobody else's fault except theirs, really, because they keep hiring these people and making these decisions. There's people keep telling them not to.
Well, I am interested. I think I do find it curious that they have no problems moving forward with, regardless of how we believe the situation, however it goes, that they are gonna continue. They're like, no, Ray Fisher's too problematic, but we don't have a problem continuing Aquaman 2 with Amber Heard. As far last I heard, and then we also don't have a problem continuing The Flash with Ezra Miller. So I do find their like, I understand as a company you want to avoid risk, so you don't want to do anything that's going to offend anybody. But it just seems like their logic there is a little bit inconsistent.
That's tea, actually.
Definitely, and it seems like in terms of risks, they're taking the bigger risk by sticking to their guns with certain things rather than just admitting they were wrong. At the end of the day, no film studio ever gets it correct all the time. Even Disney had to apologize, last year for Mulan, because they accidentally included those camps in the background, which was just horrible. And they admitted, we're sorry, we messed up. When is the last time you've seen Warner Media apologize? I haven't. I haven't seen any apology to Ray Fisher. I haven't seen any apology to Gal Gadot, to Ben Affleck, to Snyder. Obviously, we don't know what's happened behind the scenes, but a public apology would probably be quite nice.
I would like to see it.
Considering this man just lost his daughter to suicide, and they decided to not just out him from his own creation, but completely turn their back on him and his stars, and put them through even more of a traumatic experience. And it's just, from a PR standpoint for Warner Media, I can see why they make the decisions they do. But from a business standpoint, and just from the standpoint of like being a human being and actually having emotions, I just can't see their thought process at the moment. I really can't see what they're thinking.
I feel bad for Zack Snyder and also Ben Affleck. I mean, obviously, what happened in Zack Snyder's personal life is a tragedy, and it's very unfortunate that, you know, I think we can all relate to whenever we got stuff going on in our personal life. Sometimes work can kind of be an escape from that sort of thing, and to have you know, a big aspect of your life turn your back on you whenever you feel like another big aspect of your life is in shambles. That's got to be a terrible, depressing feeling. And the same thing goes for Ben Affleck. He was going through that divorce, and a lot of not, of course, it's not quite you know, the same as what Zack Snyder went through, but you know, going through a tough time, and then to have a big corporation just kind of, you know, treat you like a dispensable object, it's got to suck. And so I think in terms of an apology, I kind of half and half agree with you. Yeah, they've never been man enough to issue a statement and say, look, we messed up, I'm sorry. But I think at least this releasing the Snyder Cut, yeah, it helps HBO Max, but it is in its own way an admission of a fault, I think, on their end.
Yeah.
Is he though? Kinda.
I definitely agree. And as far as Warner Media admitting what they've done wrong, I guess we're probably never going to get there. But I just hope down the line healing can take place. Because yes, everything that happened on this set with this cast and crew is awful. But I do think there is room for both parties to kind of take stuff away from the experience and come out better because of it. I think Warner Media need to take on some of the advice from, if they really aren't going to continue with the Snyderverse and they just let it run on HBO Max, but they still want to do their thing, that's fine. And they will still get the support of Snyder fans if they listen to them. Because what they're telling them, obviously there's always toxic fans. But most of them are just giving them feedback. Like, look, we don't like this. We don't want you to be like Marvel. And we don't like this constant unconnected stories. Because Warner Media put themselves in a position with their DC films where by not connecting their movies properly, none of them are essentially a must-see. That was never the case when Zack Snyder was in charge of DC, because every one of them, in a way, maybe except for Wonder Woman, but that was still nearly made a big
No, you're right. That was the first time they kind of went outside of his vision, because even Suicide Squad, you know, it had it tied directly into the death of Superman at the time, but then it had the Ben Affleck and the Ezra Miller connecting tissue there.
Yeah, and every Snyder film has outgrossed, with the exception of Aquaman, every Walter Hamada, they're calling it the Hamadaverse, I believe. Every Hamadaverse film. It's outgrossed every single one of them.
No way! No.
So, even if they had decided, you know what, screw it, Zach, you take your time and then come back and we'll release the film in your fashion, and it had got slammed by critics, I really do believe it still would have made not just more money than Justice League did in 2017, but it probably would have been the most successful film. That probably would have been their $1 billion, because it was a must-see, and there's clearly so much for people to talk about from it. There was nothing to talk about from Justice League except the memes, except for Henry Cavill's moustache.
Right. Well, that's the thing is with this movie, this new version of Justice League, it really does feel like the epic culmination of Zack Snyder's trajectory to this point. You know, you take even with the inclusion of Jared Leto, you know, you take Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman, Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman, and then all of these kind of lead in. This very much feels like, yeah, you got to watch all those, and you get this really is what it's been building to. It's the epic kind of thing, like the Avengers actually was. The 2017 Justice League movie, just like my buddy Ricky Saucedo pointed out, it just felt like a forgettable episode of a bad TV show.
Yeah.
And which at the time, I know that you were a little soft on it in your initial review. I was very soft on it in my initial review, because that's exactly how it was. I was like, okay, I guess it was whatever. I'll forget it in a week.
All right, so another quite contentious issue within the Release the Snyder Cut community would of course be that of multiple media outlets, including Collider. Now, of course, he doesn't work for Collider, but John Campea.
Should she suffer? All right, clap if you think she should suffer.
Just going off the top of my head, I think there's a few others. There's Screen Rant, I believe, one of them, who all very much benefited from not just clickbaiting fans, but baiting them into arguments and constantly ignoring them and calling them names and harassing them, and then they would harass them, and then they would harass them back, and it was like a vicious circle. I remember I've done an article about Collider, and
Did you see what she was wearing? 911, mean girl alert.
And how I I brought up a very long history they have since around 2014-15 of hiring people who make very discriminatory, sometimes racist, sometimes homophobic, sometimes just really derogatory and awful, horrible things on social media, particularly on Twitter. There was one interaction between, I believe he was called Christian Harloff, and another employee, and they called Zack Snyder a self-hating Jew. They've called him a moron. They've said that his fans are people who live in their mother's basements.
Rats, we're rats, we're the rats. We pray at night, we stalk at night, we're the rats. I'm the giant rat that makes all of the rules. Let's see what kind of trouble we can get ourselves into.
What do you think about all of that? Do you think that criticism, particularly as of late in the film world, is going too toxic and too negative? Do you want more positivity, or do you think that's their right to express their opinion like that?
I find this to be a very interesting topic because there is a sect of people that love the movie no matter what. You know, the movie's going to come out and it's a big studio production and they just think it's the best thing since sliced bread because it's just a big superhero movie and that's it. There are some people that are genuinely toxic. I think, you know, a lot of the hate against not necessarily the character of Rose Tico, but against Kelly Marie Tran, you know, might have been a lot of toxic, you know, hate. But the mistake that some people make is mixing it all in together, you know? So I'm one of those people. I'm not sure exactly how you feel about the Last Jedi, Lucas, but I didn't like it. But that doesn't make me necessarily, you know, a toxic, you know, male fanboy who hates Kelly Marie Tran or anything like that. So I think with the release, the Snyder Cut fan base, there's a lot of people, and maybe there are. I personally haven't seen it, but I know that's anecdotal. But there's some people that are toxic. But I've seen everybody just being super enthusiastic about this new version and very vocal. And I'm sure that can be annoying. And I'm sure part of being vocal has been being very vocal about their disapproval of what Warner Brothers previously did with the 2017 movie. And maybe even there's some Amber Heard hate mixed in there, you know, some other ancillary stuff that just kind of gets, news of the day that gets mixed in with that because, you know, Ezra Miller, Amber Heard have outside drama going on. But I think that it is a mistake whenever you mix them all together. Like, I don't think the Snyder Cut movement is inherently toxic by any stretch. But I saw, I think, an article on Vox.com, where they're like, oh, did you like the Snyder Cut? Well, did you know that it's the result of a toxic fan movement? And I'm like, no, it's not. That's so, yeah. So I think it's a little bit messy of a situation.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, I was talking to you before we started filming. I took a year and a half off from reviews, and during that time, I engaged a lot within the Snyder Cut community. So I can say firsthand, yes, they can be very toxic, and it can be quite a divided fandom, which you'd be surprised. But there's a lot of I don't want to say cliques in the fandom, but there's a lot of people in there, particularly on Twitter, who think an awful lot of themselves and think that their impact is undeniable, and this is like. Oh, it's hard to put it because I don't want to insult any of them, right? But
sure,
they do very much think that they're more important than they are because this cause isn't driven by one individual. It's not even necessarily driven by Snyder himself. It's driven by multiple different people and different stories. You know, I think the most touching one, of course, from this entire movement is the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention, which Snyder founded, which raised already, I think this was even last year, over $500,000, and it's still very much going strong. I always include the link in anything I do Snyder Cut related. It will be down below. if you'd like to donate or make a difference if you're watching. And yeah, that's charity still going strong. That's been a very vocal part of nearly every single member of this community. So
Nah, it's too toxic, Lucas. That's just
so
toxic.
to
That's
see
just
it
being
just
toxic.
labeled as toxic, like, yes, some people are toxic. I'm also a Barb, Nicki Minaj fan. A lot of Barbs are toxic. I'm also a Marvel fan. A lot of Marvel fans. Every fandom has toxic people. Every single one. But if you group them all together like that, then no fandom is ever any good, and they never get anything achieved. And the Snyder Cut movement has debunked that. This entire movie only exists because the fans demanded it. If we had not kind of figured out that anything had gone wrong originally with Justice League, we probably would be looking at a very different DC in general right now.
Well, I mean, it's the same thing. I tell people what you can do is it's a little bit now different with streaming and everything, but if you're dissatisfied with a product, don't support it. And if you are satisfied with a product, go support it.
Yeah.
You know, whenever I didn't like The Last Jedi, I told all my friends, they were all like, "Hey Sam, when are we going to go to the next Star Wars premiere? When are we going to go see Solo in the theaters?" I'm like, I don't know. Personally, I'm going to wait until after opening weekend because I don't want to. I want them to realize that the last thing they did was not. So I think this is the what you can do. So if you like the Snyder Cut, I think that's why I've streamed it at least twice. You know, one time again I took a nap halfway through, and the second time I was doing dishes and stuff in the background. But HBO Max has recorded that I've streamed it twice, and I'm one of many stories because I liked the movie. I want to see more of that. So the best thing you can do is support it, and then if you don't like if you didn't like Aquaman or you didn't like any movie, don't support the next one.
Definitely, yeah. There's that saying, isn't there? Always vote with your wallet. If you don't want to see the Hamadaverse continue, if I don't want to say it's bombing because it's not. It's doing all right for itself. It's not, excelling. And the film.
But you liked Shazam. I thought Aquaman was fun.
I liked Birds of Prey as well. I didn't love it. I have a lot of problems with that film, to be honest. Every time I rewatch it, I find more problems. So I stopped rewatching it so that I.
That's the thing. I never rewatched it, so I guess that just helps me.
But he's not doing bad for himself over at DC. So I just wish he would kind of let this version of DC go on and do what he wants to do, because he has his fans and they're almost as dedicated to his DC as Snyder fans are to theirs. Especially, you think of, for example, the Birds of Prey fandom. They were very.
They have become a very vocal minority on Twitter, and then also the people that are excited about the the Robert Pattinson Batman movie.
Right.
That movie, a lot of people are already saying, I've seen it. People are like, this is going to be way better than what we got with Ben Affleck.
Yeah, and there was Joker. That
right.
was very big. And
I liked that, even with Justice League redeeming a lot of Jared Leto for me as a Joker. I still I like that version through and through way more.
Definitely. So I don't think Hamada necessarily has much to worry about. I think the thing that will kill his DC isn't restoring the Snyderverse, it's refusing to and losing that portion of fans. Because a lot of us fans have been supporting his movies for the purpose of trying to get the Snyderverse. It's kind of we give you this, you give us this sort of deal.
Right.
So if that second party decides to stop kind of offering their end of the deal, the other party is going to stop offering theirs too. And I've already seen many people say they're not going to watch any more of his DC. So,
well, I could definitely see how going off of Suicide Squad, if you're somebody who wants to restore the Ayer cut or release the Ayer cut, maybe you'd be a little offended by the James Gunn version coming out. Maybe you don't want to support that, at least maybe not opening weekend. Because then again, what really matters, especially for theaters, is that opening weekend box office number. So even if you're going to see the movie, just waiting 3 days and going and seeing it on Monday instead of Friday or Thursday makes all of the difference in terms of the way that these movies are made and planned.
Right, and I guess another thing Warner Media have really shot themselves in the foot with in terms of potentially with the Suicide Squad, the new film, with it coming out on HBO Max the same day, it still possibly could change, I guess, but they seem pretty dead set on it so far. With that coming out on HBO Max, I do feel like it does remove that must-see element that was often attributed to comic book movies and going to the theatre to see them opening weekend. Because so many people will have access to it straight off the bat, do you think that less people will, even without any controversy, potentially tune in opening weekend and make it a must-see?
Well, I mean, that was in my own personal experience. I remember whenever I saw Judas and the Black Messiah on HBO Max, it was also released in theaters. I put it off for a couple of weeks because I remember opening weekend. I'm like, oh, Judas and the Black Messiah is coming out. Do I want to watch this? It's out today. Do I want to see it? Like, yeah, it'll be there. I've got 30 days before it leaves HBO Max. You know, suddenly it's no longer a rush to see it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I waited a good 2 weeks before I was like, I guess I'll see that, and I watched it, and I should have seen it sooner. It was a very good movie, but I do think that there's something that to be said about the 30-day same day release that for theaters and HBO Max that they're doing, that Warner Media is doing. But I think I'm glad by their decision. It seems like they've made a decision to stop doing that in 2022 and return to the theater, the only theaters on the release day, but shortening the window to 45 days instead of longer. So I think that's a good mix. I was talking about it on my show. I mean, I'm gonna probably see Godzilla King of the Monsters at home instead of in the theater. I'm probably gonna see Suicide Squad at home instead of in the theater. But what's different here is that at least they're not charging me $30 extra like Disney Plus is. I'm going to go see Wonder Woman in the theater, or excuse me, I'm going to go see Black Widow in the theater because I do not want to support what Disney Plus is doing with that dumb Disney Premiere bullshit. That's dumb. I hate it. It's that's the death of cinema right there. I would encourage anybody watching not to do that and go see Black Widow in the theater opening weekend.
100%. I don't know why they continue with Premiere Access because, and it's not necessarily the fact that it's $30 to get, or pounds to get the movie. It's that you don't get the movie. You have to. Yeah,
it goes. It doesn't. Yeah, it's not. You're still like, it's just a. Yeah, it's a terrible deal for the consumer. It doesn't even make sense to me as a business-minded person.
But that's
Bob
Chapek. He knows how to make money.
This is the thing. Disney's not hurting
because of his money making prowess. That's why I think Bob Iger chose him, and I reckon he's doing a good job in turning it into a money-making empire. But
right. Well, I mean, I get the strategy. I get why they're like, okay, you want to pay, just to get in the door. But if you really want me to put out, you got to pay a little bit more. Like, I get that strategy, but why does $1 billion company need to take on the same tactics as my Tinder date? Exactly. That doesn't make any sense.
Right, and it's like, just put it out to rent. I don't personally rent films because I don't like not owning a film that I've paid money for unless I'm going to the cinema to see it or it's on streaming.
Right.
But just put it out to rent or buy because more people will buy it anyway because more people have access to a on-demand video store than they do Disney Plus.
Right.
And that's really hindered I know they've only done 2 so far, but both of those releases were severely hindered by that Premiere Access window. Neither of them were able to be as successful as as Mulan was when it came out for free on Disney Plus, and as Raya will be when that comes out for free.
And that's the thing. I think you hear about the Snyder Cut having so many views on the same day, on the first day, or so many views in the first hour or so. I wasn't hearing a lot of that when Mulan came out or the new Pixar movie. I haven't heard a lot of so many people have signed up for our Premiere Access, because I think a lot of people see that and they're like, this is just a dumb gimmick. If I wait long enough, I'll see it for free. I already have Disney Plus. I'll see it for free when it comes out there. So yeah, I think kind of as a business minded thing, you rob yourself of that press cycle saying, look how successful our movie is streaming here. And then, I mean, all these investors are now probably going to HBO Max because they're like, wow, so many people are watching HBO Max. Not that Disney's hurting for investors, but they just don't have that selling point.
Yeah. And it's like HBO Max have just... So a lot of people, I think... I do recall some people having a problem with... I believe, because we don't have it in the UK, I'm not sure, but isn't it $14.99 a month?
HBO Max is oh goodness, I forget. I'm on a family plan, we'll say, so I share the cost with other people, so I don't know how much it is overall.
Well, I believe it's about £14, euros, whatever. And that's it. That's all you pay for it. Then you've got it. You don't pay any extra for this big movie that just premiered. That is what you're paying for the streaming service. That is what...
And that's nothing to sneeze at. What, $15 a month? Yeah. Show. Just 1 week. I mean, just give it enough time for people to watch the Snyder Cut, get it out of their system, be like, man, I want to see, because somebody else has pointed out that anytime, regardless of the company behind it, you go see a good superhero movie, you want to see another good superhero product. So I would, you know, I like this stuff. So the very next day, I'm ready for Falcon and Winter Soldier. But part of the reason I was so amped up to see Falcon and Winter Soldier was because I like Justice League so much. So it all helps itself.
Put you in the mood for superhero action and in a more positive mood for superhero movies than say after watching Justice League.
But not everybody's like me. Some people want, especially after 4 hours, some people don't even watch Justice League the day it gets released. You know, they weren't even seeing Justice League until the Falcon and Winter Soldier has already premiered. And by then, when you have the option of both, something's got to give. So I could see how that, it was just bad timing.
It really was. And what was really surprising to me, though, wasn't just that the Falcon and the Winter Soldier didn't trend for more than a couple of hours. It was that Justice League trend... I'm not sure if it's trended today, but up to at least yesterday, it has trended at least twice a day, every single day. And then I believe it was for the week prior to its release, they were releasing the those little character videos, and each one of those trended. So essentially, this movie has been trending for weeks and weeks non-stop. And that's
people just can't stop talking about this film because again, there's so much to talk about. Whenever you go on the fascinating behind the scenes look at it, but just with how much this 4-hour cut has to offer, I mean, there's a lot to talk about. We've been going on for a while, as you can tell. There's a lot to talk about.
A 4-hour movie gives you a lot of discussions worth to do, which is why I really wanted to do this as a podcast, so we don't have to kind of constrain ourselves to a very short amount of time, because you don't really get a chance to talk about everything there is to talk about, because there is a lot. We still haven't covered everything, you know, to do with the Snyder Cut. But the next thing I did want to talk about, one of the last things I wanted to talk about, what was your favourite moment in Zack Snyder's Justice League compared to the Whedon version? And then what was your favourite moment that wasn't in the Whedon version?
Well, I'm glad you asked that way, because there's some stuff that is different in this cut that didn't quite hit me in the Whedon cut, but then you get to see what Zack Snyder had intended. For instance, we're talking spoilers, so whenever Superman comes back, triumphantly returns to the final battle, beats the living hell out of Steppenwolf. But not only that, I mean, he looks great in the black suit, and he's got the Man of Steel Flight song just amped up to 11, backing him, and it is one of my favorite. I already love that song from Man of Steel. I like Man of Steel a lot, and I like that soundtrack. But it's so well used here. Oh my gosh! So I remember that being a moment in the movie where I was just kind of like, okay, yeah, Superman's back.
Are you coming back to New Orleans and New Orleans East?
Is the elephant heavy? I'm coming back, baby.
Gonna do it eventually. At home, I'm like, hell yeah, that's Superman. That's Henry Cavill being Superman. And he shows up, he just is not impressed, and then starts beating the living hell. And then also, speaking of the way that it was different from the Whedon cut, I love how that scene really incorporates the majority of the Justice League playing an
Yeah.
equal role in taking him down, instead of just Superman shows up and saves the day and everybody else is useless. In terms of what's not in the Whedon cut of the film, it's hard not to go immediately to the Iris West Barry Allen interaction in this movie.
Cause I be the baddie beat, Barbie tanks, banging body beat, everybody beat, on my D, yo, I gotta be, in reality, suck a D, if you doubted me, back in the back.
One of my favorite things that I've been thinking about constantly about this movie is that Song to the Siren, the cover that they use in that movie.
Yeah.
It was beautiful, and it was just so well done, and you even get a little touch of humor. People are like, oh, Zack Snyder can't be funny. But then I was laughing my ass. He takes the hot dog and puts it in his pocket, and then he's feeding the dogs the little hot dog when he comes back. It was such a beautiful scene. And then, I mean, a lot of people were like, that's kind of creepy that he's messing with her hair or whatever. And I'm like, it's fiction. I thought it was cute. He means well. The movie means well. I'm not too averse to that sort of thing. So I liked it. I thought it was cute. That's my favorite, definitely hands down my favorite scene that wasn't in the Whedon cut. And I love how they changed the Superman introduction to the final battle.
Yeah, I can't tell you. Our reaction, by my partners, watching that hot dog scene play out, our faces must have gone from such shock and like, where is this going, to what is going on, to I thought that was really brilliant, actually. Yeah, and that's how you could tell the difference between Snyder's humor and Whedon's, because Snyder set up that joke and it had a really good payoff, because you were like, what on earth is going on with this hot dog? And then you're like, oh, it's because he was interviewing for a kennel and it helps the dogs like him and they wouldn't know he was the one who ran off. Whereas
and that's what I like too. Yeah, with Whedon stuff, it's just so random and doesn't make any sense. So like, it's funny, it's goofy that he takes the hot dog, but it also makes sense because he needs an excuse to distract the dogs or whatever, or to show what he was doing to his would-be boss. And so Snyder's humor, is more organic, less forced, and it's set up payoff like a good joke should be.
Yeah, he has what I like to call it's my favorite type of humor in movies. It's situational humor,
right?
You know, like when the humor comes from the situation, not from a character straight up telling a line that is a joke. That's much more the humor I prefer, and Snyder definitely does that. But my favorite scene, compared to the Whedon version, is easily the Amazons battle at Themyscira. Because in the Whedon cut, I was such a big fan of Wonder Woman. And I was just so upset at what I was seeing. Cause
hey y'all, it's your girl back at it again. And guess what I'm doing today? I am complaining. Yeah.
They were just admittedly pathetic in that cut. They were useless. They were just going down like flies. And then the parademons looked like literal flies. They looked awful. Steppenwolf looked awful. Although, by the way, Snyder actually signed off on that design. That's designed for Justice League was Snyder's. Funnily enough.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he had some time to go back and change even his own vision and perfect it a little bit.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things the extra time helped with.
Definitely. But, yeah. And then in the Snyder cut, my God, just from the beginning, that scene was amazing, and that line of the Amazons and they have no fear, that's already turned into a meme in the community. Like under the tweets, AT&T tweets, people would be like, show them your fear, we don't have no fear. And then just seeing these people making this sacrifice, and it was just so strongly done. And as I mentioned in your review, and I mean on your show and in my review, I really love Snyder's take on Greek mythology and how well he knows it. And I just thought he did it really brilliantly. It was like watching the Greek myths about the gods I read as a child come to life, mixed with the comic books I read as a child come to life. And that to me was hands down my favourite change.
I could totally see that.
Yeah, definitely. And then as for what wasn't in the original, I really loved the scene with Aquaman and Cyborg, and it was really short, but it was a moment like that just made me appreciate the difference a director makes, because they're just talking. They're like in I believe it's the Batcave, and he just goes to Cyborg like, "How are you feeling? Are you alright?" Because they're about to like go to battle, and he's not really done it before, and he's like, "I don't know, and they just have this really organic conversation, and you got nothing like that in Justice League. There was no character development or kind of those quiet moments that I think really shine in movies like this.
Hello, how are you? I am under the water. Please help me. Here too much raining.
Because, listen, the action is awesome in this film. Action is great. But so are the grounded character moments and the moments where you get to kind of see them connect. And that, to me, was just the best addition to this film, was getting to see this cast connect.
And that seems also personally like we're always talking about reacting to the previous movies in the franchise and where those films maybe could have improved. And to me, that really feels like Snyder taking some of the valid criticism of Man of Steel and Batman vs. Superman and even Watchmen, where you don't have those smaller moments for the characters to be actual people.
Oops, better delete that.
And they are very much Greek gods and these kind of archetypes and that. But with, again, when you get a 4-hour cut, you get a very what feels like a deliberate effort to make not only Cyborg better, but to make Flash more human and to make Jason Momoa just more well-rounded, and Wonder Woman gets to be Wonder Woman. And you mentioned also that she's less objectified here. A lot of people pointed out the male gaze of what they thought was Zack Snyder in the 2017 release. They're like, yeah, you can tell Zack Snyder shot this because Wonder Woman, her ass is everywhere and all this stuff.
I think the fuck not, you trick ass bitch.
Turns out you see the Snyder cut and she's treated much more respectfully. So I think he learned a lot himself from his previous works, and those smaller character moments are just proof of that.
Yeah, definitely. And there is one I think it was only one shot I had a problem with in this film in terms of Wonder Woman. And it was, in the bank heist scene, and this is in the Snyder Cut. There's when she lassos up the guy.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the camera placement's a bit weird because you can't see anything up her skirt, but it is very much positioned in a way that is up her skirt. And I was a bit like, come on, guys, like just. Well,
there's even a couple of moments like that in Wonder Woman 84 where she's just got such a revealing outfit, and Gal Gadot is admittedly, she's a beautiful woman, so I'm sure it's like I'm not obviously pissed by her outfit choice or anything, but it's hard not to shoot her in a way that makes her just show off how beautiful Gal Gadot is. So there's a difference between just letting her exist and being pretty and then purposely shooting it to sexualize her. And it's kind of sometimes hard to tell that difference, but it was so clear what they were doing in the 2017 release.
Literally. And it's like, especially when you watch this cut, so now we know for sure what was and wasn't changed. And you think about the amount of time and energy and money they actually put in just to film a shot of Diana's ass walking down the street. Or of, Flash falling into her boobs with the stunt double. Or the countless different outfits she wears in the same scenes compared to the Snyder Cut, which, are showing her breasts. And it's like, this is what you spent money on. This is what people in that kind of sphere, so Jeff Johns and Joss Whedon, and Toby Emmerich all thought, yeah, this is great, I love it, yeah. Let's spend.
Could you imagine what that checklist must have been like? They're like, okay, what do we got to do to fix this? They're like, okay, Gal Gadot's ass, really bad jokes, CGI facial, get the facial hair away with CGI. And I'm like,
Piss off
that's
everyone.
when that's your list, you know you got a mess of a movie going into it.
Oh, and don't forget, insert random Russian family. Tick.
Oh, that was the word. I was so glad. And again, we get to see Barry Allen save people in this movie. We get to see Wonder Woman save people in this movie.
And
they
it's not
care
a joke.
about people. The characters get to be hopeful and heroic and everything. We don't need an added dumb Russian family. Just give us some nice character moments.
And speaking of that, I thought it really was a shame that some people were kind of jumping on the line after the bank robbery or explosion where she says to the girl, "You can be anything you want," and people were like, "Well, she can't because she's not got superpowers." I was like, "Oh, that's not the point of the line, guys."
The point is that she gets to be like, she sees an empowered female, like somewhat role model, and then she's like, "Can I be like you?" And then she's like, "You don't need to be me. You can be anything." It's to read into that is silly because that's the essence of that is that you can be great, but you being yourself is great, and you can be whatever you want to be. That's I love that scene. That's probably one of my favorite Wonder Woman moments like ever.
Line.
So for people to hate that is weird.
Yeah, and it's like it'd be different if she said maybe, "Yeah, you can be Wonder Woman." Then maybe I could understand people be like, "Well, no, she can't." But
well, yeah, she didn't literally say, "Yeah, go try and fight, go try and stop the next robbery you see." You know. That would be dumb, but
if it does get continued, I hope they bring that exact same actress back and do give her superpowers or something just to piss off those same people. Be like, haha. So what else do we need to talk about? There's still a fair amount. Jared Leto's Joker. Did you prefer it to David Ayer's Suicide Squad? Do you think it's better, and do you want more?
I do want more. I think you kind of cheat whenever you put Batman and the Joker on screen together.
Yeah.
So if you're saying, Sam, do you prefer watching the Joker in this movie versus watching the Joker in Suicide Squad? I always prefer watching the Joker when he's acting opposite Batman and toying with him and bringing out his dark side. So yeah. But not only that, I think Jared Leto looks like cool and crazy and weird with the long hair and the messed up, like it looks like he had lipstick on, but it's just smeared and then no damage tattoos. I don't know why they got rid of it or anything like that. I didn't see his teeth. I didn't see what they looked like, but and he doesn't have a purple suit or anything like that. They just make him look like he's just out of the asylum, which is cool. I mean, it works for this character in this movie. And so I love the interaction.
Hey, bestie.
I love the meme potential if that's not very careful. I love the history there. What I want to see so I do want to see more, but I want to see what went so wrong that Batman killed Harley Quinn, and then and it just there's so much there to that backstory that clearly Zack Snyder's writing fan fiction at this point. He's got this area that he wants to do all this stuff, and I'm like, I want to see what he wants to do,
And since BVS, I really, really wanted to see, and it's a shame we still haven't, the backstory of when Robin killed, presumably Dick Grayson. It could have been another Robin, but presumably it was Dick Grayson.
Well, I think in an interview, didn't he say it was Dick Grayson? Which is supposed to be Jason Todd from the comics, but I think it was Dick Grayson in the movies that died, which is kind of weird.
They do. I guess they have to change some stuff up. I'm not sure, but
they have to fix the timeline though, because they choose to give us a Batman in this very first movie that he's like at the end of his career, which is a weird choice, but I get it.
Yeah, but I guess it's Snyder. That's
well, he loves Dark Knight Returns, so he wanted to do Dark Knight Returns. I get it. It's a good version.
I relate to that. I mean, and this is one of the only times you ever hear me praise Jeff Johns, but. One of my favourite comic book runs is Batman Earth 1. I think that is one of the top tier Batman stories. And I was always really looking forward to, and hopefully if it continues, I am really looking forward to getting to see those kind of alternate storylines start to play out. Because the Injustice alone, so much potential is there, just for possibly endless amounts of shows and spin-offs just for that individual brand.
Well, I mean, the mix in the Nightmare scene, the mixing of those characters, I was like, I want to see. Yeah, I had never seen or even thought about how Mara would interact with Batman, who would interact with Deathstroke and the Flash, and like just that different set of characters put together is like, again, yeah, you wouldn't be seeing like Avengers Age of Ultron was just, it felt like a watered down version of the same kind of rinse and repeat story.
Yeah.
Clearly, Zack Snyder wasn't just going to do Steppenwolf again with his he had all sorts of directions he wanted to go and all sorts of possibilities.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you talk about the Nightmare scene as well. I also loved, I just want to talk about quickly. So some people were confused as to why Joker was laughing when Superman showed up, because they were like, well, they're about to die. And they were like, is he laughing at his death? And I was like, no. Is it not obvious? They're in the middle of a bridge, helpless. This is the Batman. The person he has not been able to kill for his entire life, essentially. And he's about to die pathetically by Superman on a bridge in the middle of a highway. That's what he's laughing about.
Right.
But I thought that was just brilliant. And I loved the how about a truce, Bruce? I thought that was a brilliant line. It's a shame we didn't get the "We Live in a Society" line, but
I do. You point. Oh, gosh, I love that they did it for the meme though.
Yeah.
And Jared Leto actually is selling those shirts now from 30 Seconds to Mars. He's selling shirts that say "We Live in a Society" that I believe, if I remember the interview he did correctly, they benefit suicide awareness and prevention foundations.
Snyder's Foundation.
Yeah, so
right,
so I think that's great if that's what if I am remembering that correctly, and you know, Jared Leto here was just he was having a ball with it. Oh my!
The old tongue bath. Oh. Okay. Clean up on aisle 1.
Oh my gosh, did you get that? Can we use that?
My gosh! But did they shoot new material with Amber Heard and Joe Manganiello as well, or with just Jared Leto?
I believe the majority of that Nightmare sequence was new material. I don't think the stuff with Amber Heard was, because there's no way in hell they would have brought her back the time they were filming, because that was around the time Johnny Depp was in court, I believe. So
yeah,
I
they probably just
they would have been in England as well. So yeah, I don't think that was new, but I do know, of course, the Joker stuff is new. There's a really nice shot I used in my review of Zack filming him, and he's got his mask on, and it looks quite cool. And then I do also think the Superman bit might have been new. I think.
Which Superman
Nobody
bit?
quote me on that. Pardon?
Which Superman bit?
Where he lands down and.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
And what I like, actually, some people have said they didn't get why. Well, I like the subversion of whenever he's back and he's helping them in the movie. He's got the black suit. But whenever he's evil, he's got the red and blue. It kind of reminds me a little bit of what's that character? Homelander from The Boys,
right,
where he's dressed in a traditional, like, you know, I'm a Superman fan, so he's got the flamboyant colors. You're like, oh, he's here to help, but then he's evil. You know. I think that's a fun subversion as well. So I thought that was kind of interesting for his portrayal in the Nightmare.
Yeah, definitely. And as for Henry Cavill as Superman, one thing that's, of course, a big question coming out of this is, should he return?
So I actually hadn't heard anything about Henry Cavill's behind-the-scenes behavior. I know that he seems to be a big nerd. You know, I've seen that video of him building a PC, and you know, he's involved in projects like The Witcher, and has been very excited about playing Superman. I believe, isn't his dog's name Cal or something like that? So don't quote me on that, but I just know he's a big Superman fan. But I would hope, if that was the case, and if maybe he was asking for a lot of money, that maybe now with Warner Brothers being kind of ambivalent on whether or not they want to do another appearance by him as Superman in the future movies, or if they even want to do another Man of Steel 2, since they're kind of playing hardball with him, maybe that's kind of brought him down to earth a little bit in terms of ego. Again, if that's the case, I don't know the particulars, but I would hope that they would reach an agreement. You know, maybe he's not asking for too much, and maybe they're willing to give him what he's worth. Because I want to see more Henry Cavill as Superman, especially I keep going back to it, but especially with that cliffhanger in The Nightmare. You know, I want to see that followed up on.
I can't wait to hopefully see that particular story come to life. The Injustice and Nightmare stuff is going to be really great. In regards to Henry Cavill as well, first of all, I would love a video of Gal Gadot coming to his house and going to his dog, Kal-El, no! I do think that Warner Brothers should probably, if they're not paying enough to have him be happy, maybe do up the price, because he's definitely worth it. There are fans who love him, and he is very popular, and quite frankly, he doesn't need Superman. You know, he's got The Witcher now, he's got Mission Impossible, although I don't know how he can come back, but he could, I guess.
And The Witcher is, it's a Netflix show, and Netflix is big, but, you know, being a TV star isn't what it was, you know, in the 90s or in the early 2000s, where it's kind of lesser now. Like, you can get a lot of prestige being on TV, but definitely. I'm sure he would like to continue being a movie star, and so I hope that, you know, he gets a good deal. I hope he's not asking for too much. But yeah, like you, I want him to be paid what he's worth, because I want to see him come back. I don't want them to... Well, I don't know. Again, looking at what they're doing with the Robert Pattinson movie for Batman, I am excited for that. So if I'm not going to say it would be impossible to recast this character and make it to where I'd like it or be just as excited, but it's an uphill battle.
Right. See, this is what I mean when I say it just makes so much more sense for them from a business standpoint to continue this on HBO Max, because as long as that's being continued, their other DC will be supported, and people will also watch that, because some people, through just their own confusion, will probably think it's all connected anyway, and then but then other people will just be like, well, I really like DC, so I'm gonna check this stuff out. And it's not like they're putting out bad films. They're not stellar films. I don't believe any of them have been on the level of Zack Snyder's, except maybe James Wan's Aquaman, because I just love James Wan so much. But other than that, they're doing okay for themselves, and they just keep shooting themselves in the foot by creating problems where there doesn't seem to be any need for there to be one. So it's kind of unfortunate, but I do think there is definitely a potential for the Snyderverse going forward, and I do definitely think that it will continue on HBO Max at some point. Maybe not soon, maybe it will take a while. You know, you've got to get all those, I'd imagine, a lot of contracts underway and all sorts, but I think we can expect something more. Do you?
I just think money talks. I think again, it depends on how they I'm sure they figured in a level of success for this Snyder Cut, but if this is exceeding whatever expectations they have, then I'm sure, like my buddy Peyton said that, like, if this thing just blows it out of the water, then surely they'll at least consider going back to is there a way we can get people back in these contracts? If not, can we try and draw up new contracts? How much would it cost to do that? Again, is the financial, if they see the how much money they could make outweighing how much it would cost to bring it back together? Because again, this would be a big undertaking, because there's so many years removed from that. It's not like this is like November 2017 anymore. You know, if it was, then yeah, hell yeah. But so I think the possibility's there, but it's an uphill battle.
It really is, because especially as far as I'm aware, there's been nothing really on streaming, like streaming original franchise or series that would be as big as this in terms of sheer scope and scale and amount of content. You know, because we have some kind of crossover series and things like with the CW, and DC Universe, which isn't the DCEU but is the DCEU. That's Jeff Johns' mess, so he can enjoy that.
And yes,
I was sharing the shady post towards her.
I think there's multiple avenues that DC can go down in restoring the Snyderverse. Obviously, they can do it all on HBO Max. There's a potential that maybe they will restore it in terms of films and theatrical release, but I do think to keep our expectations realistic, which I think is something we could all kind of learn from this whole situation, is that it will probably, if it does continue, it will be on HBO Max. And
Who the do you think you are?
No, whoa. No.
And it probably won't have, the big budget that it once would have had. But I do think, for particularly Snyder's hardcore audience, and the people who maybe watched this film that weren't initially into the DCU, who were won over by this film, I think they will definitely also have interest in this. And I believe you said you would have interest in it going forward. You'd definitely watch it and pay for the HBO Max.
I would continue to have HBO Max. I have it currently, and it would be an incentive to keep it around for the future. My question, and yes, obviously with these storylines, I want to see them continued in whatever capacity, as long as I get to see what the vision is. But my question to you, Lucas, is: do you think that Zack Snyder? I mean, I know that this was probably a compromise. It's like, well, this is the only way you can really complete and release your movie right now, is if we just do it through HBO Max. If they're like, all right, we're going to make more, but it's only for HBO Max, we're never even going to consider putting it in theaters. Do you think Zack Snyder would go for that?
I really appreciate the opportunity.
Fuck off, Gillian McKay!
That's nothing new to me, darling. I'm always getting cloned.
Do you want any more tips from me?
No!
Well, I've woke up feeling positive. Kiss my designer vagina.
Ooh. Yes, I do. I guess he already has a relationship with streaming before even this released with Netflix. He's got Army of the Dead coming out, and I don't think it would take up all of his time as well. I think he'd definitely still have time to do actual films, because he doesn't need to do everything. In the original plan, he was never going to direct every single entry.
Sure.
And that people don't want him to direct everything. They're happy with David Ayer, and a lot of fans liked Aquaman, so they're happy with James Wan. And I guess they were happy with Patty Jenkins.
Get that fire exit door. I'm off.
Back right before the second movie came out.
I mean, I appreciated the experiment Wonder Woman 1984 was, and the differences it had, but yeah, Wonder Woman 1 is far superior. And I think that's the general consensus with a lot of people, is that Snyder's stuff is superior, and Snyder has a better understanding of not just DC and these characters, but the business side of it as well, because clearly he's doing something that Warner Brothers aren't able to do. His streaming movie dwarfed an MCU entry, which DC has never been able to do.
I mean, let me ask the audience.
The difference between the Snyder Cut and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier in terms of viewership and reception and being talked about, it's just night and day difference, and that's a first for DC, because they've always been playing catch up, and now they've got something that, hey, this week nobody's really been talking to me about Marvel. This is 2 of 3 spoiler reviews about Justice League that I'm doing, and nobody's invited me to do a Falcon and the Winter Soldier panel because not as many people are talking about Falcon and Winter Soldier just yet. So that and what you said, I think Zack Snyder does have a grand vision that would lend itself to a series. He has all these ideas. I could see him mapping out a series of a season of television, and maybe directing the first couple episodes and then the season finale, and then just kind of being an executive producer on the rest, and bringing in people and filmmakers that he trusts to kind of fill in the blanks there. And I think that would be a pretty successful formula if that's what they want to do. But again, it all comes back to money, and making this quality of content for what is intended to be a television show is, again, that's a big, I don't know if they have the money, if they're willing to pony up the money for that.
Bob. Girl, you have done it again. Constant lowering the bar for us all and doing it flawlessly. I'd say I'm surprised, but I know who you are. I've seen it up close and personal. Girl, you make me so
ashamed.
Yeah, it's a difficult situation. I don't necessarily envy Warner Media either. I don't agree with all the decisions they make, but I wouldn't want to be in their shoes and have to make these decisions. Because
they're definitely like at a crossroads where both way they take is gonna piss off a section of their fan base.
Yeah,
and like they go completely and abandon the Snyderverse. That's not. I'm gonna be a little disappointed.
Yeah.
But then they go completely and abandon. Like they already got a Robert Pattinson movie made. Basically, they can't abandon that at this point. So what? Yeah. Again, I don't either envy their position.
No, I mean, I guess though for HBO Max, it would probably be such a success. I can see them greenlighting it, and they'll find the budget. I'm sure. I mean, you think about there was that Ridley Scott show, Raised by Wolves, that was on HBO Max, and that had really impressive CGI. Really impressive. It did have its budget cut a little bit for season 2, but overall it was a very impressive show visually. So I reckon they could handle it.
And then television really has been, with Game of Thrones as well. I mean, Game of Thrones kind of took out all of our preconceived notions about budget and movies versus television kind of out the window, because that looked cinematic. That's like some Lord of the Rings style quality, at least visually and everything. It maintained that throughout. So yeah, anything's possible.
Yeah, definitely. So to sum up, our final thoughts. My final thoughts on the movie are, it has so much potential, and of course is so much better than the Whedon cut in every way, and Whedon deserves every ounce of hate he is getting.
Who the fuck are you? Exactly. Sit the fuck down. Stinky ass.
And I'm very glad he's being blackballed from the industry, because he is allegedly
I think the fuck not, you trick ass bitch.
An abuser and a sexual abuser and just a horrible, horrible person to work with. So
trust you will be dealt with. Period.
I hope Warner Media really do get their stuff together, because this movie is not only vastly superior to anything they've ever made, but it will also go on to be such a huge success for them and such an undeniable phenomenon for them, which it already is essentially, that I just don't see why they're not continuing this. And I think if HBO Max does continue with this, if I were Warner Media, I'd punch myself in the face that I let this thing slip through my hands personally.
Yup.
What are your final thoughts?
Well, I agree. I think it's very important that we point out that we weren't in the room whenever any of these things happened with Joss Whedon, but
I don't want to cry. But
the stories that have been coming out from behind the scenes are troubling, to say the least. And if you just are judging the quality of the two films, Zack Snyder's vision vastly superior to what Joss Whedon and the committee, the board of directors at Warner Brothers came up with. So I didn't know that you can't know anything. I anticipated I would like this better, going into it previously liking the Ultimate Edition of Batman vs. Superman more than its theatrical cut. I just didn't know how much I would like this new version better. It really blew me away, and it's got me. I think this film makes Batman vs. Superman better. It makes Man of Steel better, because it is a fully realized vision from what Zack Snyder wanted to do. Like you said, Lucas, there's not only a fully realized vision for what he wanted to do to this point, there's so much potential for what he could have done in the future. Not only him, but what Ben Affleck could have done with his Batman movie.
had enough of playing games. Fucking hell. It's like having a job working 24/7.
What perhaps the Cyborg movie would have looked like, what the original version of The Flash would have looked like before they, made it into Flashpoint. I don't know if that was the original vision or if it changed or anything, but just seeing, or even, the Amber Heard different version of Mara, and showing up at the thing there. There's so much potential here that, yeah, I loved this. And I want to see more of it. Again, I'm a superhero fan, so I could see how somebody would who is just a casual viewer, just maybe wanting to turn their brain off for an hour and a half, maybe this wouldn't be for them, because it's not really a turn your brain off kind of movie. And it's also 4 hours long. So take a nap, get ready, take some snacks. It's got pee breaks, luckily. But I would highly recommend it. And obviously we've been talking about it for so long. Anybody who's made it to this point has enjoyed it. And I think that just speaks a lot about the quality of this film.
Definitely. And in terms of final ratings, and I know a lot of people in my non-spoiler review have been waiting for me to announce whether or not this is my #1 comic book movie of all time, whether it took Kick-Ass's spot. No, it did not. Only because it did not. Because I gave this movie a 9.9 out of 10. I gave Kick-Ass a 10 out of 10. Because Kick-Ass to me does not have a single flaw in it. It is a perfect film. This movie, I feel like a couple of the scenes could have been tightened or cut, and certain things didn't necessarily need to be where they were, obviously like Nightmare scene. But because it's like Snyder's 4-hour vision, I don't necessarily hold it against the movie, but I can't call it as good of a movie. What are your final ratings?
Oh, in terms of rating, I've abandoned doing ratings on my channel because, a 9.9 to one person can mean an 8.2 to another person, which can mean a 6 to another person. It just depends on how you. But I very much enjoyed the film. I will obviously recommend it to anybody who suggests it. The preview, I do remember. I think if I remember correctly, maybe I gave the Snyder or the Whedon cut, because I did ratings back in 2017. I gave it like a 6 out of 10.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
That's probably way too generous.
That's so,
yeah, but so this one is way above that at any rate. It's at least, oh gosh, I don't know. I like this sort of thing a lot. So for my personal rating, again, what it means to me, it would at least be 8 or higher out of 10. And I'm just really excited for what this could be in the future. In terms of if we're rating it in terms of comic book movies and where it stands among my favorite comic book movies of all time, I don't know if it's quite there for me in terms of being even in my top 3. I'd have to look at my list, because I really like X-Men 2. I really like The Dark Knight. I still really like Watchmen, another Zack Snyder film. I like Batman 89. So it's just been a week, so I don't know if I can rank it just yet, but it's good, man. It's really good. It might be one of my favorite it might be my favorite DC EU effort from Snyder, or maybe even my favorite DC EU effort so far.
Fuck that home, but I'm never home.
Yeah, well, that's high praise. That's very high praise. Well, Zack Snyder's Justice League, which is, as far as we're concerned, the only live-action Justice League film to have been released so far.
That's right.
Is available to stream worldwide. I think it's also available on VOD in the US. Not too sure about international dates for that. Go check out Sam Carrico on the Film Fan Club over on his YouTube channel. That will be linked down below. I've been Lucas Ledane. Thanks for joining the Let's Chat Movies podcast, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Just say bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for having me, and I'll see you soon.